podcast.
We got a special episode here today. We've got
Melissa Haas.
Anyway, it's Melissa from Pretty Funny. She wrote, directed, and originated, I think, Pretty Funny.
Yeah, she's
so
the creator.
we'll find out more about it in a minute.
Yeah, we've got questions. She's got answers.
We think she has answers.
She better have answers, or else nothing will happen.
Or else we'll just not
Just
get the
do
answers.
nothing. Yeah, we'll just be
We'll go back to working on
just
other
as
stuff.
smart as we were before.
Yeah.
I'm glad that she didn't have to be in this damn
I can't
hot
turn
box.
the fan on, obviously.
Yeah, you can turn the fan on. I know there's going to be some
Hi,
noise
Melissa.
or whatever, but it's hot in here.
Hey guys, what's up?
Sorry.
Just my blood pressure. That's all.
He's yelling.
Cool.
about
You should
stuff.
go to a doctor.
It's too hot in here, and he doesn't like it.
Lord have mercy.
Hey, thanks for joining us, by the way.
Yeah, we appreciate
thanks for having me.
you coming through.
She sounds a lot better than us.
That's because she's way cooler than us.
That's true.
So it's easier to be better.
You're not
when
wrong.
cooler.
I have a lot of practice listening to my voice and how it sounds in recordings, so
You've got
I'm
training.
just putting it on. Yeah.
Again, thanks for taking time to do this, because I know you said you were in the middle of pilot season, you said?
Yeah, it's my first true pilot season as an actor in Atlanta. Usually it's super big in LA, but since so much stuff is filming here now, we're getting a lot more auditions in this market, which is awesome.
You're Melissa, I'm going to try it. Melissa Oulton Hass, is that right?
It's Oulton, so
Oulton,
it's like
it's one or the other.
ignore the
Gosh, you
U.
failed.
Ah,
Oulton Haas.
yeah, is that
Yeah.
Scandinavian?
It's not. Oulton is actually English, and then Haas,
Ooh.
I'm told, is German.
German.
And neither of
Haas.
which are actually ethnicities I identify with.
Huh.
Yeah, because my mother is of Jewish descent, and then my father is Puerto Rican, so who knows?
Yeah, that's, how did you end
Sorry,
up with German?
Germans.
Yeah.
But Melissa ain't rolling that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't like you Germans. They make a good cake, though.
The German shook.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with just a little bit about you and your background and how you got into all this, and then we'll go into Pretty Funny and everything. Where you came from and how you got into what you're doing.
Do pray tell about yourself, Melissa.
Sure. Well, I am from Atlanta. I was born and raised here, and I'm really proud of that. I'm grateful that the industry is coming here and happening here now, so I don't really have to move away from my home to do what I want to be doing with my life,
Nice.
which is acting, writing, producing, creating new content, telling stories about Atlanta, because even though a lot of things are filming here now, they're still like set somewhere else.
Right.
Right.
So I'm happy to be writing stuff for Atlanta.
Yeah, so the industry just sort of sprung up around you, which is really convenient, I imagine.
It is convenient, yeah. So thanks everyone for coming to see me.
How long have you been acting for a long time, since you were young, or?
Yeah, so I actually started taking acting classes when I was in high school because I saw my older brother doing it, and I was like, well, I can do that too.
You were like, I can do that and better.
Better.
Yeah, well, not better. He's very talented. He doesn't act anymore because he has too many talents to just nail down one. But I started in high school, and then I didn't intend to study theater in college because it didn't seem practical, but then I did. And I got a lot of backstage experience and like production experience. So I got to see how shows are put together and all like the working parts.
Right.
And see that it's not just all about actors all the time, which is great for the ego.
There's a lot of technical details that go into everything.
Oh yeah, I mean, actors are really like the kind of the last component creatively.
Right.
There's so much pre-production work that gets done before any kind of casting usually. And then when I graduated, I went into veterinary medicine, actually, not like as a doctor, but as a vet tech and assistant.
Right.
And just did some short theater works with some friends that I had at the time, and we just kind of like did our own thing in the Atlanta community. And then once the industry started really popping here, I never really strongly connected with theater. And when I had my first on-camera class, it's just a different way to express yourself. It's a different medium to work with.
Right.
And that's kind of what I gravitated more towards.
That's interesting.
And
The
so-
difference between an audience and a camera. I've never really thought about that.
I would just feel like the pressure for audience might be a little bit more.
I hate cameras though.
There is a difference for sure. There's pressure either way. I mean, an audience will give you instant feedback, and
Right. Yeah, I can see that.
and that's great. And I still enjoy like performing live sometimes, but with camera work, you just have to be ready and on all the time, and you don't get as much rehearsal as you do with theater. And like time is money, so you got to do it, and you got to do it right. You just have to make a choice and go there, and also be able to trust everyone around you, because it's quiet on set, so people aren't going to be like reacting to what you're doing in the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just have to trust in what you're doing and trust the people that you're working with, because ultimately they have more control over your performance than you do. When it comes to editing and adding music to a scene, like it's usually something very different than how it feels on set because of all the elements that are added later. And like a good example of that is a lot of times for auditions, you're asked to tape it yourself, like at a studio or at home, and then send it in for the casting director. And that is, the camera is just on you, and there's just lights on you, and there's usually a neutral, like gray or blue or white background.
Right.
And it's totally unrealistic because you're talking to someone off camera, and it's like a different acting technique. You just want to look the role and act well enough so that someone can imagine you on set in a costume with everything you actually see on TV. And then by the time you get on set, you're in the world, and most of that creative, imaginative stuff you have to put into the audition, you don't have to really do that because, like I said, you have the costume and you have the set and you have the props and you have actual other actors that you get to work with.
And you start to get a feeling for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different world. And then with filming #PrettyFunny, that changed so much once we got to editing, and you get to do like several different takes when you're on set, but you don't know it's going to fit. You don't know it's going to be right for each moment.
Just to step back, can you, I guess we'll just switch over to the origin of Pretty Funny and where that came from and your role in it. If you could just give us a little background of that, and then we can dive into the process and how that worked out.
Tony Reams and Tori Haas and I worked together on Dead by Midnight, which was another You42 production. Tony and Tori produced that one, and I just wrote Blindside. Which Tori directed. And I wrote that because I wanted to, like, it was a horror, and things that scare me the most are the things that could actually happen in real life. And I also wanted to see like a protagonist that isn't making a lot of dumb mistakes, that they're actually like thinking things through and trying to get out of situation realistically. So that was a lot of fun to do, and just like watch how other people brought that to life, the thing that I imagined in my head, and how different that looked with like someone else directing it and acting it. After that premiered at the Atlanta Film Festival, we were fortunate enough that You42 wanted to work with us again and see what we could come up with. They wanted us to pitch a comedy, and Tori and Tony actually came to me and asked if I had any ideas. I had just taken a stand-up comedy class with Lace Larrabee at the Punchline. So comedy was kind of like fresh on my mind. And I wanted to tell a story that was relatable and familiar to me and like what I was going through in the entertainment industry in Atlanta. And I wanted to tell a story that I hadn't seen before. And I wanted it to be all women, because that was my experience in the stand-up class. It was an all-female class, and I just met some hilarious amazing people
Right.
that were so supportive. And so, yeah, I wrote myself a role in that as well, to play an actress. And I just kind of took stories from my actual life, like things that have actually happened to me, and heightened them a little bit. I mean, everything that is in that episode are things that have actually definitely happened to me in one form or another.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. That's a whole new life.
Just after seeing them.
But Blindside didn't happen to you, just me.
The only part that happened to me is Tori was out of town one night, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I couldn't find my glasses. And I felt like something was watching me. It was just a cat. It was fine. I'm fine.
That scared me. Just to jump back to that was really terrifying. That was where Dead by Midnight, I think, took a turn to really starting to freak you out.
Yeah, that was my goal. And they kind of stacked the project so they got a little bit darker as they went along.
That definitely came through.
Well, thank you.
So pretty funny that. So you actually worked at a radio station, and it was
You work with bros?
Bros? Yes. How true is that?
Okay, so that part did not happen to me.
Okay.
Just the first episode, everything with Mallory, everything that happens with her, that has happened to me. And I also used to work at a vegan restaurant. That part's real.
Nice.
Gotcha.
For Sydney's episode, the stand-up episode, I'd experienced some of those things. And for Jesse's episode, the DJ, I got more creative. And the bros are just based on just people I have met. They're kind of like an amalgam of
Oh yeah, there's plenty of them.
that type of person.
Yeah.
And then for Naomi's episode, the podcaster, I wrote most of these roles for specific people that I knew I wanted to see doing this type of work. And for Out of Tempo, Thomas, who plays Naomi, I knew she was a fantastic actress and a wonderful person. And I wrote and directed that episode for an African-American woman. And I just asked her, like, what do you want to talk about in this episode? Like, what do you want it to be about? Mm-hmm. And she said, tone policing. And I said, okay. And I, for her, and had her read it. And I said, is this, like, does this resonate? Is this true? Is this something that you actually experience? And she said yes. And we went forward from there. And that was my favorite episode. It's kind of maybe the least laugh out loud funny, but I think there's a lot of honesty to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of honesty to the whole series.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Definitely. It seems like that collaboration resonates when you actually watch. It is a pretty powerful episode, probably one of the more poignant ones in the series itself. So it definitely resonates how you guys collaborated with each other.
You.
Yeah. No.
She trusted me and I trusted her to tell the story. But yeah, I wanted to take care with her story and with Karis Jeffers, who plays Jen Jones.
Yeah.
I wanted to take care with her character and her storyline, and with Cindy Doan, who plays Sydney Wynn. We took that stand-up comedy class together. She's actually a comic now. She's like killing it.
Nice.
And I wrote some jokes that touch on race, and I checked in with her. I was like, is this okay? Is this a story that you want to tell? And she said yes. I just wanted to make sure everyone was comfortable with the language and the content, and how I feel like how it was being presented is like as opposed to like shock value.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Done in a tasteful manner.
Yeah.
Did you know? Did the four of you know each other before you went into it? The production.
So no, Haley Swartout, who plays Jessie, I actually intended, like, I wrote that role for somebody else who was unavailable. I met Haley in an acting class about a year ago and thought she was super charming and hilarious. I had her audition for that role, which was interesting to be on the other side of casting.
Yeah.
And I found out later that she actually does have a degree in broadcasting and that she did actually have an internship at a radio station. And it just felt like kismet. Like I did not
Right.
know that when I offered her the role. I found out later. And we didn't. The four of us, our only connection was me. Like I knew all of them, but they didn't know each other until August. Like we got together to have dinner and to do like an impromptu photo shoot at the Beltline, like in character.
Right.
And it was just an instant connection with everybody. And that was kind of the whole story. Like it all just fell into place and everything just worked. We were so fortunate to get all the right people and all the right cast and crew members.
Yeah, it definitely. It seems like you guys have known each other for
especially
a
by the
long
end of it.
time. Yeah, I mean, by the end of it, it's like you guys have like grown up together and stuff like that. So it's surprising to hear that. I mean, prior to the actual production of Pretty Funny, like you guys didn't know each other as a group, and to see the end results, it's very convincing.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Yeah, there was a lot of love, and we were able to shoot in sequence. So by the time we got to the 5th and 6th episodes, like we'd all worked together on pretty intimate moments of the show. And I really wanted the show to be about friendship and women and their relationships with each other and their careers. Not to say that like romantic relationships aren't important, because they are. Those are just stories that we've already seen. There's stories that other people are already telling. So once we all met and had dinner, I was like, this show is going to be great because these women are great.
Right.
And like, there's no way this isn't going to be a success.
Right, I've told you before, the last scene where you're all sitting outside and you're all covered in cake. By the time this gets out, it will have been released. So
No spoilers here.
Yeah, so people are know. Yeah.
that moment, you can really feel like it's a tangible feeling that you can tell the four of you have gone through something together, not just on the show, but in, as real people, as actors. That really comes through, and it's nice. It's a great moment. I told you that's my favorite moment, and I can only imagine the emotions, because that if you did shoot that sequentially, then that would have been one of the last shots, I imagine.
Yeah, it was the very last shot of the whole series. We've been filming for about 8 hours at that location previously. Like
so you're exhausted on top of that, I bet.
Yeah, we did the whole cake fight thing, and that was also like a one take kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah. Can't do that
Do
twice.
that over and over
That's
again.
not gonna happen over.
And Caitlin Brammer, who directed episodes 5 and 6, we've known each other for a while, and I was so happy that she was directing these 2 episodes, because we've become very close friends through this as well. She just took such care with those moments, and all 4 of us were just feeling it when we were outside sitting on that curb. They set up 3 cameras. We just ran the scene 3 times, and it's just us by the end. It really is just us.
What do you hope comes from the audience? Like, what do you hope the impact of Pretty Funny is with people when they watch it? I
couldn't really think about that too much during the process. During production, I just wanted it to be a good set that people wanted to be on, and it was. Everyone was so incredibly enthusiastic and collaborative. And then we actually had our cast and crew screening last night, and then I just really wanted everyone who was in it to love it, and they did, and they do. So I've gotten a pretty fantastic, overwhelming response from that, and great feedback from everybody. As far as the rest of the audience goes, anyone else who's going to watch it, I want it to be relatable. Hopefully, maybe they'll see something from a different perspective that they haven't experienced before, and relate to something that previously they wouldn't have.
Right.
Maybe they'll get to step outside of their own experience a little bit. And I hope that they do just like feel the love that we all had making it. And that, because that's what I feel. I just want people to feel as good as I feel by the end of the last scene, like you said.
Right on.
We work a lot with the local schools around, and we spend a lot of time with creative kids and a lot of technology kids because we've been a game studio for so long. I was wondering if you could give any advice to young people, young women coming into the industry, if there's any amount of advice you could give them or insight that you would want to give them. I wanted to give you a chance to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just kind of been figuring this all out as I go.
Just wing it.
That's the secret of adulthood, I think, is just figuring it out as you go.
Wing it.
Yep.
You just have to kind of do it. I mean, it's really, really scary. And I think especially for women, we don't do something unless we feel like we have permission. It's just not the correct way of thinking. It's
Right.
kind of how we're raised. And especially when we grow up and like school is all we know and there's so many rules that we have to follow all the time, it's maybe a little difficult to think outside of that. But I think my biggest strength is finding the right people to connect with who will support me and support my vision and what I want to do, and just letting go of the people and the situations that don't serve me, and like being able to recognize that and being okay with letting things go in order to fulfill a bigger purpose. Like I maintain that the network of people you have and build around you are going to be like the measure of your success.
Right, and help define you to a great degree. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And just trust yourself and listen to yourself. It is like, it's terrifying to
Right.
like when I wrote all these scripts, I was like, I don't know, I like this, but
Right.
but I had people like Caitlin and Hillary who directed the first 2 episodes, and Tori read them and give feedback and be honest. And I found people, like I said, who like enthusiastically wanted to be a part of this.
Right.
You can't do it on your own if you want to do something to this scale. Like if you want to write. If you want to draw. If you want to make AI robots, like
Right.
do that. Like do the thing that you want to do. And if you do it and you don't like it, that's okay too. Like figure something else out.
Right on.
Right.
The hardest part of being a creative person is not creating.
Oh man.
It's
Yes.
extremely frustrating.
It's
and
the doldrums
depressing,
of
to be
life. Yeah,
honest.
it's awful.
It's awful. So just do the thing. It's easier said than done, for sure, but just do it. That sounds like a Nike ad.
I was going to say, make like a tennis shoe.
Yeah, this
Just
podcast
do
is
it.
sponsored by Nike.
Yeah. Season 2, sponsored by Nike.
Oh, man. So you mentioned Hillary and Tori, which is obviously your husband. That's where I
Yes.
was going to go to as far as like that dynamic and working with somebody that you're going to go home and see later on. Is that I've always heard that kind of like conundrum is not really the best. Like you're working with somebody that you live with, but obviously what you guys do is not your normal job.
You must just become a different person.
And he's a lovely individual.
He's
he's
super nice.
Super
Yeah.
nice
Yeah, he
guy.
is.
Like I just want to give him a hug every time I see him.
Isn't he just the best?
He really is.
He's
Yeah.
so nice.
He really is. He is extremely talented and extremely supportive. And he really wanted my vision to come through. Like he is my biggest supporter.
That's awesome.
And wanted this for me the whole time. I feel really great about the kind of working relationship that we've been able to build together. Usually in the beginning of a process, we have different opinions, just different points of view on something. So it's admittedly a little rocky in the start until we can get on the same page
Right.
about what something is. He got the crew together basically, and then I got the cast together.
Gotcha.
And then that was it. We were on set together and we just we did our own thing, but also like supported each other. And you don't really turn into a different person, but your focus shifts.
Yeah, it's
Right.
for the project. It's
Yeah.
Not personal.
It's for the
Right.
project. And especially when there's other people there, depending on each of us in different ways, you got to be there for everybody, not just for your partner and not just for yourself. You know, it can be difficult, I think, to because Tori's a producer and he's a director, and I think it can be difficult to release some of that control to somebody else on set. But I don't know that he found it difficult at all. He's, like I said, he's so supportive and he's so giving to me, and he believes in me so much. And also, he's just like getting to have a good time with all his friends. So
It's interesting that you talk about the group of people around you, because I've been fortunate enough to work with Tony and Tori and some of the other people in your group, and it's a remarkable group of people you've surrounded yourself with, and you included. I think you all should feel blessed, I think, to know each other up there in Atlanta.
thank you. I do. I feel #blessed all the time, you guys. Yeah, Tony, also incredible.
Yes, he's an amazing
Very
individual
supportive.
too.
He's definitely like a champion for women in the industry as well. I actually co-directed episode 3 with him because I wanted to direct, but I'd never done it before, and I did. The timeline was so quick. I didn't really have time read a book on it or study it. I was like, will you please co-direct this with me so that I can like watch and learn and figure out what I'm doing, so that by the next weekend when we filmed episode 4, I'd kind of have a handle on it.
Right.
And,
That's awesome.
And he was gracious enough to do that. Yeah. So he kind of handled most of the technical stuff. Cause I still have a lot to learn about like camera work on like being on the other side of the camera and being in front of the camera. Let's be honest. I still have a lot to learn.
I think we all
But yeah,
do.
he was gracious to do that. And
And have his kid's face stuffed in cake. That was also nice of him.
Kids face and cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping, because I don't have a lot of friends with kids, but I wanted that like kind of dynamic in the end episode, and I was just like, oh, I'll just write this and Tony's kid will be in it. And then like maybe a couple months later I was like, oh, by the way, can we borrow them?
Yeah.
But they have experience on their own doing their own short films.
Right. Yep.
And they were great. They were absolutely wonderful to work with.
Pretty Funny's coming out tomorrow. This podcast will be released next week, though, so
Right.
it will be out when we're
Yeah.
talking.
So again, no spoilers.
Yeah,
Don't
so
worry.
you've already seen it by now if you're
Right.
listening to this.
Yeah. So I know it has a screening for an event in Atlanta coming up as well. That's
Yeah, there's the Women in Technology.
Nice.
We're going to do a Q&A and a panel
awesome.
with several prominent women in the Atlanta industry about women in leadership positions.
nice.
It's going to be March 13th at Synchronicity Theater. I believe it's already actually
Yeah, I think
sold
it's-
out,
yeah, it's
but
sold
there's
out
a
quick.
wait list for it.
Ooh, very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, that stuff's important. Like lifting up and spreading around knowledge, I feel like is one of the most important things humans can do, especially in the entertainment industry.
Especially if you have experience and you can pass that on to somebody that's up and coming. Yeah, that's,
Oh,
that's
yes,
huge.
absolutely. I've had people like already asking me for advice, and I'm like, are you sure you should be asking me? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I did this whole thing. I guess I know
kind of
some stuff
important.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you become wise, you don't realize it.
The wiseness just sneaks up on you.
Yeah, it does. It's sneaky. All right. Well, thank you, Melissa, for joining us. That was great. We're looking forward to it. I think it's great. It gets better and better with each episode.
They're
Thanks,
pretty
guys.
funny.
It was a blast, and I really appreciate you talking to me and You42 for everything. You're right. It just keeps getting better and better.
That's right. All right.
Awesome
Appreciate
sauce.
it. Thanks a lot for joining
Thanks,
us.
Melissa.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
Have a great rest of
You
the day.
too.
First of all, Melissa, thank you.
Super nice person.
That's the reason why
It
they're
makes
together.
me feel like a worse person because
Well,
she's
you
so
are
nice.
a worse person. Through this interview that we've had with Melissa, I've siphoned some of the niceness from her, which now I will use to tolerate you. But I want to say thank you, Melissa.
That's good. No, yeah. Thank you from Melissa. And thanks to the Pretty Funny team and the troupe of wonderful people up in Atlanta that made all this stuff happen. All right, Pretty Funny. It's on the platform. Go watch it.
Coming out tomorrow?
It's coming. It's out now.
It's out now?
It's out now.
You mean like
Future now.
Or
Future
like
now.
right now?
Well, future now. It's out now. You can go watch it on the platform.
Holy smokes, I'm out of here.
All right, we're out of here.
This has been the U42 podcast.